Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be in the audience of your keynote
Thank you.
at the Middle East School Leadership Conference today. How have you found your day so far?
Do you know what? I found it really energizing. There's a real buzz in the room, and my keynote was followed by School Box and giving another perspective around relationships and parents. And I just think, yeah, there's a real broad church here. So I just think it's amazing.
Brilliant. And in terms of your illustrious career in education, before we move on to the question that we talked about, vision and clarity and stakeholders, what is a message that you would like future school leaders to hear?
Yeah, great question. Do you know what? I think because of my own experience, I would really like school leaders and I mentioned it in my keynote, tap talent on the shoulder. I want them to scan the horizon of their schools. I want them to look and see who's just under the parapet, but has got amazing potential. And I say that because we're also in a recruitment and retention crisis. And if we're not investing in our staff, we could lose them. And I'm sure there are some real gems in our schools. And so I encourage school leaders to go back, to scan the horizon, see who's there, elevate them, promote them, encourage them. And my theme was, you cannot be what you cannot see. So let's do it.
Really useful advice there. And when I was sitting in the audience listening to you talk, I was replaying, and I mentioned this to you off camera, the experiences I've had which required resilience. And sometimes we're not sure if it's going to work out in the end for us. And it's lovely to hear from those who have been recognized that it can work when we have that support from leaders who say, thank you for that. It just takes us to the next level. Question related to that before we move on to the golden question is, what do you think some of the reasons are that leaders aren't tapping people on the shoulder? What could be some barriers and what can be done about it?
I think some of the barriers that sometimes, and I was guilty of this on occasions as a head, and I talk a lot about it now, is look up and out. And I think because of the way the schools are, accountability, funding, recruitment and retention, we're so busy looking down that we get immersed in the day-to-day what needs to be done that actually we can forget. And so I think that's a barrier that some heads occasionally was guilty in your office and you're not really doing that scanning. And I'm big on relationships, not doing enough of that relationship building. I think that can become an issue. And so I think how we overcome that is, and I think when you're in a school, and you'll know as a leader, it's walking those corridors, right? Having conversations with the children, having conversations with the staff, getting to know people. And I think once you do that, then you'll really understand who is in my school. Oh yeah, I appointed her 3 years ago, but I've never had a conversation with her or him. Make the time. I think investing in relationships, I think will go a long way.
How about a leader who might be listening to this, watching you and thinking, I'm really busy and I don't want to come off disingenuous to my team. We've got so much pressure on us. I've gone into a kind of action planning meeting or performance standards meeting, and I've told them they need to do this and this, set timelines. And then if I switch to relationship mode, am I going to come off?
I get that. You know what? I used to say to my team, the minute we walk through the school gates, you do put your game face on, right? Because you're a leader. Your staff and the children
you're standing up a bit straight.
You stand a bit straight, you put your game face on. But you're still you, okay? And it's those traits of just being kind, being empathetic, smile. And yes, you know, that whole accountability, holding your teams to account standards, you can do it with grace, right?
Yeah.
And you can have those hard messages, but leave the person with dignity. So I'm not sure I buy that. I'm busy, I can't switch into the, because I think you can do both. I really do. And I think if you do both, you're more likely to bring your staff with you and your teams with you, and they want to do more with you and for you.
Yeah, I'm being the devil's advocate, self-talk devil's advocate. You know, where we tell ourselves things,
I know.
and then we manifest them. And I'm being big on manifestation. We manifest them in that, no, I have to go and do X and Y. And the question is, do you really have to do that now? Or could you look at how you can structure it differently? So thank you for that. How about, and I know I said this is the last one, but I'm just too curious. If someone's looking up to you and seeing the 3 letters after your name and thinking that you've been accoladed by the government, the royal family, if someone else wanted to aspire to the same, what do you think, how must they consider their leadership?
I'm very honest, and I always say it's not going to be easy, regardless of who you are, right? Man, woman, whatever. It's never easy, but I think sometimes those challenges, I think those challenges are quite good for us sometimes. So yes, if somebody's looking up and thinking, oh, maybe I could become, what does that look like? You have a ton of resilience, you do. And I also think you do need a good network around you. And I speak about coach or mentor, which is great. But I also think people that love you, your friends and your family, that will be there, because there will be some setbacks. So you need to dig deep and have the resilience. You need all of. So I would say resilience. I would say friends and family. I would say keep your eye on the prize, right? Because if you really want it, then the art of the possible is what I said earlier. The art of the possible. But resilience, and people say, oh, everybody's got a bit of resilience. But sometimes you were talking about knockbacks. I was talking about knockback. If we weren't resilient women, we wouldn't be sitting here today. And so I see that as quite powerful, actually. And I'd want young girls to see the power in resilience as well, because you can then become whoever you want to become.
Yeah, and that concept of legacy. I also have 2 girls. And when you mentioned that you have 2 girls at the time when you started your career, then you had 3, it really resonated, because I do want a world, cliche, or I don't mind, you can say I'm a cliche lover, but I do want a world where my daughters are facing challenges that aren't the challenges we are facing. 100%. I want them to see a possibility where we saw ceilings.
100%. I'm with you all the way. And so my headship was in a girls' school, and when I was a head of year, I was in a girls' school, 3 daughters. So there is something about girl power. I unashamedly, because it's hard out there for girls. And I just think if we are in a position where we can celebrate and elevate, then I think.
I also wanted to slide into the fact that something you mentioned in your keynote earlier, which was really the accolade and the recognitions come. But actually, what you said right at the beginning of your keynote was that you're in service of children. And that is, we say it, and it's on the website, and it's on this, and it's said in in the brochure, and it's said in the policy documents, and it's said everywhere. Sometimes something is said to the point where it saturates and it no longer feels relevant. How important was that in the recognitions that you got along the way?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I always maintain that I wouldn't have got those recognitions if I hadn't been doing everything that I was doing, which is the relationships with the children, it's the outcomes for the children, it's regardless of your starting point. And regardless of my starting point, right? I wanted the girls or the children that I taught or the schools that I led, I wanted them to see and have those opportunities. And so I always, hopefully, stayed true to that service. And I do talk about, because we wouldn't be in jobs if we didn't have the children. And so for me, we are here actually to serve you. I get paid because of you. So the accolades are a bit of they're lovely.
They're nice to have.
They're nice to have. They are. And it opens doors. I can have conversations with different people, and sometimes people listen. But actually, if you strip all of that back, I signed up to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I wanted to teach
They
my
say once a
subject.
teacher.
Always a teacher. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I promised we're going to this question, which
Yes,
is,
go.
how do we maintain, and we mentioned just a minute ago about the fact that teachers and leaders wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for children, and the fact that we are involved in their development across time.
Yeah.
In an environment that's, and I know we've worked with governments as well, in an environment that's fee paying and also not fee paying, for profit education and not for profit education.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I've had in the UAE in the past an affluent student tell me that we pay your wages, but not in a pleasant way.
Yeah.
Now, given having boards that maybe have demands on school leaders in certain parts of the world that maybe are achievable, but not within the time frame that they're looking for. This is the context of this question, which is, how do you maintain vision clarity while managing diverse stakeholder needs?
Yeah. Look, I don't think it's easy. I think let's just be honest and transparent about that. It's not easy when you've got so many different voices that feel that they need a seat at the table. And actually, some of them do need a seat at the table. But I think that I always used to go back to the vision and the values of the school. Okay, what are we striving to achieve? And when, let's say, parents send their children to our schools, I would hope it's because of the vision and the values and the education that therefore comes as a result of that. And so I always go back to relationships. And I think it's about always being on message, actually. The reason we're here is so that we can deliver this excellent education for part of our values. What are our value sets? Because yes, if we're thinking about parents, and let's talk fee-paying parents, right? Yes, they do want an education. But I would also argue that they would like their son or daughter to be upstanding citizens who can be empathetic, who can be kind, who know how to have rich discussions with diverse stakeholders. And actually, they're getting that in school, right? And yes, we'll give you a fantastic education, but all our value sets will be ribboned through that. I just think there has to be a mutual understanding about. And for governors and trust boards and all the diktat that's coming down, I get it that there's accountability and or a bottom line in terms of finances. But actually, if you want your head teachers to be able to lead your schools in the way that why they appointed you, if they want that to happen, if they want their teachers to be well, okay, because well-being is super important, stay well, to show up every day, okay, because we all know about high absence rates and so on. If we want all of that to happen, actually, we've got to trust our leaders to do the job for what they were appointed. So that we can, great education, value sets, your sons and daughters, the children in the school will leave and be fantastic young people that will take their rightful place in the world and will be a credit to the school. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I think we can stay true to our value set, what we want the future generations to become, legacy, what do we want them to become? They will allow us to do our job.
It's interesting because it relates to one of the points you mentioned in your keynote, which is to have those professional and personal goals that you've identified that are where you are now and where you hope to be. So if those are strong within you, you've got a stable set of goals that you're trying to achieve within your role and within your career now and next, it means that you will have that kind of sturdy footing by which you'll say, in fact, given that we are focused on serving the children as per this priority that we agreed on, these are the steps that have to happen. And these are the steps that can happen in this way with this potential outcome. Or, and we've all sat in those situations where we feel beyond reasonable doubt that this is the best course of action. And then if a board feels differently, you've stated your case. You've made them aware of what risks are available on both sides. And then it's a collective decision making, but you've done everything you can to stand by what you believe in. But sometimes we can't always get the ideal leadership manifest
Yeah.
in the way that we hoped
Yeah.
because of the push and pull
Yeah.
of different stakeholders.
Yeah.
Parents might want one vision of what they want.
Yeah.
You've got your board or the
Yeah.
owner of the school
Exactly.
having a different vision based
Yeah.
on the number of dirhams in the
Yes.
in the budget.
Yeah.
So I think being sensitive to
Yeah.
how different stakeholders are making decisions
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
lens that each stakeholder
Yeah.
brings, because an accountant or CFO,
Yeah.
they're going to be speaking
Yeah.
the numbers language.
Yeah.
So you need a numbers
You do need a numbers
story.
Yeah, you need a number story, and the number story could be around the outcomes for the young people. Okay, and yes, outcomes definitely, but that young person is not going to get those outcomes unless they A are well, B their teacher during the schools to actually teach them, and actually they have. There's that subtle nuance, isn't there, around yes, I can write an essay, but what else are you bringing to the essay?
Mm.
And I would even say for your CFO, your accountants, your owners of the schools, they could have owned anything. They could be an accountant in a bank. You could be anywhere. So let's bring it back to who are we here for? Children that we serve.
I always joke, and I've probably said this on another video, but you're never, as a principal, you're a CEO, Chief Executive
Yeah.
Officer, but actually you're a Chief Repetition Officer.
Yeah.
So you're a CRO
Yeah,
a lot, because you have to repeat
Absolutely.
why we're here, what
Yeah.
we're here for. And sometimes that repetition
Yeah.
makes you the source
Yeah.
of that North Star energy that people need.
Yeah.
Because they know that you're going to come over and say, what's
Yeah.
best for the children?
Yeah, yeah.
And they can almost
Yes.
predict that you're
Yeah,
going to come
yeah.
and say that. Yeah, that's really interesting in terms of being resilient, but being brave. I think there's a bit of courage that comes with being a leader who knows what they know, but being flexible in
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
everyone with them.
Yeah, and I also think as leaders, I think it's important to know which battles are worth fighting for, which ones, what's your red line in the sand, right? And just knowing that sometimes boards may make decisions, but like you said, you've explained, you've stood true to your morals, and then there's be like, okay, and that one, okay, I'm going to go out and I party line and so on. So yeah, I think there's something about that as well. I think just there are some that you may not win, but there'll also be your red lines.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Because I think as a leader, the minute you're stepping over your red lines too often.
Yeah, I think it's how it trends, right? When you're checking over time, oh, I'm not comfortable. Ethically, my moral compass is spinning.
Yeah.
Or there is that sense of this doesn't fit with who I am as a human.
Exactly.
Like I can't go to sleep at night feeling great.
Yeah.
Or I can't look my daughter in the eye and say, I did the right thing here.
Yeah.
My husband or whoever it is that you care for. That when you narrate that, your professional journey, you have to say it out or write it down.
Yeah.
Would that be the proudest moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can't,
then I think, and some people say that often. People contact and say, I'm in a bit of a bind. It's a real difficult situation. Not sure whether to leave and then we have that conversation. Your moral compass, where is it going? How much is it spinning? And actually, I've walked away from 2 schools, and I just knew that actually it was not good for me. And I just thought I can't stay in a school where it's just not working. But that's courage, right?
Yes.
That's bravery. Yeah. And I think often for women, we carry that kind of, because we look at the statistics, right? We look at the statistics of how many female head teachers and so on, ethnicity and so on. We're afraid that if I leave that, am I going to get that? And so that resilience, that courage, that love and support, I just think is really important.
Yeah, I also think the role after that role becomes so stressful because and this has happened to me in my career where I've moved on and I've then thought I can't have a second move on after a first because then the common denominator is me and then you feel added pressure. So I think, yes, we can put pressure on ourselves, but we should also be, as you said, true. Yeah, I'm a good person. I'm doing this for the right reasons. Hopefully that's true. I'm doing this for the right. I am serving children. And there are boards, organizations, schools, advisory roles. There's so much more that isn't just leading a school, that where your vision, your passion can be recognized and come to fruition in other ways that still
100%.
impact children at scale. I think some heads do feel that headship or retirement What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because when I stepped back from headship in the summer of 2023, it really was, I wanted a gap year. I was a bit tired and daughter off to uni and so on. And I thought, I'd just take a break, Evelyn. And I did have that worry of, because the further you are away from headship, people think that you don't know anything.
Or you get rusty.
You get rusty. But you know what? I've landed on wisdom. And I think the work that I do now, whether that's UCL, coaching, leadership, whatever it is, it's because I've got the wisdom and the experience. And I didn't want to step away. I didn't want to retire. I'm not ready to. And I realized you can make a difference, right? You can make a difference.
Yeah.
Just leaving the keynote just now, I've spoken to 2 people. I've got these messages. People just say, that really resonated with me. I'm going to take that back to my school. That's impact, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's
at scale.
It's at scale.
That leader is a leader with 3,000 children of maybe 150 or maybe 100 families, and that energy and that goodness, that unique amazingness of the Forde is filtering from you to not one school but many schools from
100%.
here.
So there is life after headship, is what I say.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the legacy as well, that if you aspire to be ahead, and there is a lot of pressure. I remember stepping into a meeting with the board, stepping out and having 254 emails within 70 minutes. And then I was calculating, even if I spend a minute on each one, I still need a huge amount of time, over nearly 4 hours just to go through the emails, just to find out what people want from me. So that, and I call it the washing machine, school leadership, that spin cycle. When you put one load off, you're putting another one, and you're just constantly in that washing machine. That almost we become institutionalized by that washing machine, that we think there's nothing else but this washing machine. I'm a laundrette, I need to go. And then it's almost like when someone comes to your door, you're like, okay, what do they need? Is it colors or white? Is it do you need 200 degrees or 100 and on?
Really good analogy.
So that washing machine concept, I would like to add that to leaders, that you don't always have to put yourself through that forever.
No, you don't. And I also think there's something about knowing when to stop, right? Just knowing that you've done a really good job, and actually your wisdom, everything that you've got, you can take it to the next.
Or not grinding yourself into the ground.
Yeah. And that's when you need to stop, when you just know that, do you know what? Because my girls, lastly, I'll just say that, so I've got 3 daughters, as I talk about, and my friends would say, how are the girls? And my immediate response would be, because my school was an all-girls school, I'd say, Coptal girls are great, we've done this, we've done that. They're like, not own children. And then it's like, and so as I was going through headship, near 9 years, and I just thought, there's a little bit of love that is slightly waning. And I thought, now I'm really thinking about my own children who are now grown up and so on. So I think that's really important as well, is knowing when I've done a good job, I can move on to something else.
Yeah, I'm smiling because my daughter, who's 3, yesterday I was preparing for the conference actually, and it was quite late, and it was just before her bedtime, and she was saying, Mommy, can you stop booping? She means boop, 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 because she had a laptop. Stop booping, I need to say good night to you. And I was like, okay, that's when it was like, switch mode.
To stop.
Switch modes, because those moments with your children
100%.
Precious, critical, 100%. Time critical. If we use the professional language, they're just golden, right? You can't get them back. Thank you so much. Talking about golden, it's a lovely place to round off. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I really feel your heart in all you do. So thank you for giving me a bit of that today.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure.